So Mr. Kambui is a chief architect at UDC since June 2009, and based on his work history with the National Housing Development Corporation, the U.S. Department of State, the U.S. Embassy in Kingston, as well as Sandals Resorts, Mr. Kambui brings a wealth of experience. He attended Howard University as well. He is goal-oriented and desires to make a significant contribution to the redevelopment of urban centers in Jamaica, with special emphasis on downtown Kingston. He will share with us on the role of the Urban Development Corporation in implementing sustainable projects locally and lessons and outlook. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mr. Kambui.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I've been the chief architect since 2013, not 2009. Okay. All right. I appreciate the invitation. And when I was asked to deliver the presentation on the topic, I was wondering just exactly how I was going to do this. Being in a position as chief architect, it made me really reflect on the achievements of the UDC and exactly how I would portray that information. So because the UDC has gone through several decades of accomplishments and achievements, in some instances they have not really done much in some decades. But so I decided to do a presentation that looks back on the journey, the role of the UDC, look at the present, and look to the future, since what we're doing today will impact the future. Now, I'm using a technology here that will be give me some challenges, may give me some challenges. And we're using the ArcGIS system, the story map, an Esri-based platform, and UDC has actually spearheaded the use of this software. So this is a net-based presentation. Okay, let me first start by saying that we're going to look at the history of the UDC. We're going to look at reflections in terms of change, the impact that change has on persons, and then we'll look at the journey that the UDC has been through. And we're going to go to a party, but we're going to go to that party in 2031. The UDC, and for persons who don't know what the UDC is, the UDC, the Urban Development Corporation, was created by the Jamaican government in 1968 through a special act of parliament to ensure that planned and orderly development takes place when and where it is needed in Jamaica within the framework of national priorities. The UDC is the principal public sector organization responsible for planning and designing urban environments in designated areas in Jamaica. It is also the entity charged with preparing, developing and implementing plans for urban development, urban renewal, and rural modernization in collaboration with other agencies. And the mission of the UDC is to improve the quality of life for citizens in designated areas through the planning and implementation of development projects, including physical, secondary, and social infrastructure, and the delivery of quality services to clients. This is a map of the UDC designated areas. We see Kingston, this is the Caymanas area, this is the Hellshire and the Goat Island region. I'm supposed to be able to do this. We have Ocherias, Duns River, Falls area, and we have Montego Bay, Negril, and we have some projects in Bluefields. Well, I'll skip the corporate vision. It's in line with what we've looked at. But I want to just, since most of you have just eaten, go through the reflections. Reflections on change. Change is constantly happening in society, and if you stop at any point. It continues. What is the platform for the redevelopment of Kingston? First of all, you have to recognize that Kingston has recently been designated as, received UNESCO designation as a creative music city. Right, so we have to put that there. We also have to center the redevelopment around downtown. And so we have particular projects in the downtown area that we want to focus on. The Festival Marketplace, the Waterfront Park, or Waterfront Promenade. We want to reintroduce or introduce residential life downtown. It can't be just about commercial. I had the privilege of living downtown for about 4 years. So in order to get to this presentation, it appears fate had it that I lived downtown for 4 years. So I was able to walk. I lived in the Ocean Towers apartment. So I walked to work. So the walkability, I did everything downtown. I've moved now and I'm commuting and I'm paying the price for it. But to experience that, it gave me the opportunity to know just exactly how Kingston could be redeveloped. We also want to look at the multimodal transportation rationalization. These are studies that have been done, so we're not coming up with anything new. What we want to do is to integrate those proposals. We also recognize that because it has become a music city, UNESCO music city, we have to, it's about time that we develop a National Music Museum. And I think the ideal place for it is for it to be on the waterfront, an iconic building. When you fly into Norman Manley, you can spot that iconic building, as well as you could see it when you approach Kingston from either direction. We also would want to look at the Parliament zone because we have been charged to look at the development of a government zone. I won't get too much into that because that's a very current topic and until we are able to clarify. I see you fellow architects here and they're chomping at the bits to get information. So you will be informed soon enough. Yes. Also, we have to look at the social intervention because redevelopment will come with some challenges and issues. And lastly, how are you going to finance it, right? All right, I just want to take you through some of the elements of the redevelopment plan. First of all, Kingston, the image of Kingston. I want to look at the image of Kingston. It's about the people. It's the attitude, the energy, the vibe, and the levity. I selected this image because it actually portrays that energy and that activity of Kingston have its own special charm, which is the people, right? We have to look at the issues, the problems, right? We have a high crime rate, although Montego Bay is eclipsing Kingston. All right, and these are some statistics. I won't get into the detail, but it's extremely high. But we have to deal with those. And urban decay, abandonment, lack of character, ugly streets, dilapidated infrastructure. Again, looking at the problem, we have to identify the problem, right? Disabled, unfriendly, waste management issues, garbage in gullies, odors sometimes, dilapidated and inadequate housing stock, and community amenities. A lot of people live in downtown Kingston, but you're not aware of it, especially when you go on the main roads, right? So we have to really look at those realities. But there's a good image of Jamaica and Kingston. Sports. I think coming up soon is the boys and girls high school champs. We have 2020 cricket. We're strong in athletics. You know, so the image is good internationally. But we're big in entertainment. We have to recognize that you have community events that are quite famous, popular around the world. Uh, about 3 weeks ago, a gentleman came from Georgia for a presentation to the JIA. It's a white Southern American. And we had time before the presentation time, and he asked me to take him downtown to Orange Street for him to go to a record store, Pablo record store, for him to go and thumb through vinyl. I took him there, and he was in Hageven buying vinyls. Vinyls are now back, right? And when he was done, he wanted to take a photograph of the Simon Boulevard Cultural Center because he represented the company that built that. And I stopped at the corner of Church Street, and he got out the car and walked and took a photograph. Then he felt okay, walked some more, heading towards Love Lane. So I was getting a little bit concerned. But he took his photograph, nobody paid him any mind, and he came back to the car and said to me, boy, you know, I wonder why would any American come to Jamaica and stay in an all-inclusive hotel when you can experience all of this, all right? So Kingston has its charm, and he felt as if he accomplished something. It's like an adrenaline rush. He had this positive experience, right? And so what we want to do is to highlight a lot of the entertainment areas. So we're looking at the problem. We spoke about the entertainment. But now, Jamaica is slated to become the 4th logistic hub. Everybody's talking about it. All right? And what we like to do is look at what the other logistics hub look like around the world. So let's look at Hong Kong. All right? All the other 3 look like that because of trade, big in trade. So if Jamaica is going to become the next logistics hub, whether we like it or not, that is going to happen. All right? Let's look at Dubai. I won't go through all of them, but let's look at Dubai. Dubai is right here. This is Dubai in 2013. All right? But let me go back now and show you what Dubai looked like in actually this is Dubai, 1990 to 2003, the transition that took place. All right? Again, that's another logistics hub center. Okay, so Kingston, or Jamaica, is strategically located, and this is the air map link. 9 hours to Europe, average 4 hours to North America, or less. 15 hours to East Africa, 6 hours to South America, let's say Brazil. All right. So we could see Jamaica actually becoming a, didn't mean to do that. Let me get this out. Shipping hub, Airlink, cruise ship home port. It's a UNESCO creative city, and could also be a cultural hub if we really get it together, right? But we also want Kingston to become the center, commercial center. And it's possible because if you're going to have trade, it could also become a commercial center, banking center. So let's look at how we're going to re-image this. Kingston is a creative city, music city, right? And we have to, I don't think there's one facility that has been created for our entertainment activities to take place. So we have to recognize that and include that. Right? We have to create infrastructure for that. Outdoor space, indoor performing locations. Right? So revisioning downtown Kingston, we want to look at definitely housing. We have a concept for housing using the existing infrastructure, right? The existing grid system, and we use this as a prototype. It can be applied anywhere, right? And the catalyst, as I mentioned before, for that development is around the waterfront, just in the area of the craft market. All right. We know that employment has to be generated, and so we have identified a location here for BPO campus. As a matter of fact, there is a company that has actually has initiated the process to purchase a portion here to actually start their BPO facilities. So these are things that are happening. So what we want to do is the existing the existing car park, transportation center downtown, which has been a white elephant, what we have done is actually reposition it to become a mega transportation center. We all know this work that's going on Marcus Garvey Drive. So where is it going to terminate? In downtown Kingston, right? And it actually terminates here. So what we have proposed is to build a mega transportation center with multi-story parking. That way you actually drive in and park. Buses like Knutsford Express could leave out here, and then you'll have local shuttle transportation that takes you around the urban center, as well as you could walk, because this area around here will be developed into a commercial restaurants. There's even a proposal that a hotel, a 500-room hotel, could actually go here, and with cruise ship port at this location, all right, which is where the piers were originally. So let me just orient you now. This is the rail station, and that is to become a museum, to be developed as a museum. But then there's a link, as part of the multimodal link to downtown. And then we have, this is Parade, and then we have the market area. There's another map I'll show you, the location of the market area. Now, we spoke about a potential music museum, and we are looking in this area for the location of an iconic building for a music museum, which would become the gateway into downtown Kingston from the east. From the west, you would have the festival marketplace, is what we call it. That would become the gateway from the west. Now, to tell you what has been happening, we have the Foreign Affairs building that's under construction now, if many of you are not aware of that. Grace Kennedy is actually building their headquarters in this location. And some of you might be aware, but there's going to be a UN house downtown, located in the Secretariat building for the Lavasi. So all the UN facilities will be located there. And not many countries can boast a UN house. It will benefit the government of Jamaica because the government has to pay rental for all of those properties occupied by the UN building. So when you have them under one roof, it consolidates that cost. Right? So their presence downtown is going to create opportunities, businesses, restaurants, that kind of thing. We have at this location a multi-story car park and multi-story office building, and we identified the location for another multi-story apartment complex where currently that's Area 4 headquarters, right across from the craft market. So these are elements that can foster that redevelopment downtown. The mega transportation center, as I mentioned before, right? Okay, let's look at this one. It actually incorporates the market. Same image, but what we want to do is actually develop what is called a lifestyle center, where you have mega shopping facilities. But we also want to repurpose the market district to create proper facilities, a state-of-the-art market. I could show you pictures of this market from way back. Nothing has changed, right? But we really want to look at the situation and to create something where persons are comfortable in going to the market. But there's a connectivity. You have this central mega transportation center, this waterfront complex, several buildings, hotels, and then you have that connectivity to the lifestyle center and to the market with the BPO close by. So that is a income center that can spur the redevelopment in the other areas of downtown. Now, persons would have wanted us to select specific locations all around Kingston. We feel that it's best to identify a location where you could start and make that the catalyst and encourage persons to actually develop their property, their private property. As a matter of fact, you can't even buy a vacant building downtown now because nobody wants to sell it. This is the image of what the festival marketplace could look like. A multi-story car park, the mega transportation center, utilizing solar power. Possible. These are just visions of what it could be. This could be a 500-room hotel. These are all building commercial, the shops below, and the creation of public plazas that would foster the entertainment side, the creative side of the Jamaican people. I mentioned a cruise ship pier. Cruise ships could dock here, and then there's a facility where you could actually process, like the Port Authority or the immigration could process persons, and then they would get off the ship and on buses to the various sites. They could go to the music museum, or they could go to the other attractions, Trench Town. There are persons who come to Jamaica to experience those things. And this is an indication of the multi-story apartment building I was telling you about. Right? The location of the craft market, we would still maintain a cultural artisan facility where persons could actually still engage in that kind of activity. And the pier that exists, we would redevelop that so it becomes an attraction, maybe a restaurant. We'll also have museums within the facility.
But there were a couple of things in Mr. Kambui's presentation that were sort of missing to me, and his lovely vision and the beautiful, I loved it. It was great, but I thought there were a couple of things I thought, what about the people who are living downtown now, and what's going to happen to them? And we must always include people in the vision, you know, it's not just buildings. And my other question was about green spaces. I would love to see more effort in terms of urban forestry and, you know, really taking this seriously and planting, doing more tree planting and things. Again, not just buildings. And thirdly, on the buildings, I thought, what is the plan for heritage buildings downtown? I didn't hear you mention them, how they're going to be included in the plans, and are they going to be fixed up? Hopefully, there's some amazing buildings downtown which would really, if you're talking about tourists and visitors, that's the kind of thing that they love to see, because they don't really want to see a whole lot of modern buildings that they can see in any other city in the world. So I think the old colonial architecture, there's some incredible churches and a lot of buildings that are in very bad repair. I would love to see them as part of the mix and a part of the attraction of Kingston downtown. So that was my thoughts. Those were my thoughts.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go through the entire presentation, but as far as people, I did mention that social intervention is going to be a part of the whole mix in dealing with the redevelopment of downtown. As far as the reuse of the existing buildings, I also have an example of a particular building downtown. It's the old Attorney General's building. I use that as an example of how we could repurpose. What we would do is maintain, it's a very beautiful building, but what we'd want to do is to repurpose. And there was an image that I had in my presentation, but didn't get to show it. So yes, we have, as far as the cultural districts, yes, we will restore and retain and repurpose those buildings. Certainly, certainly, certainly. Was there another question?
Green space.
The green space. Yes, we part of the waterfront, which I didn't get to show you. We are actually going to extend the promenade from the festival marketplace all the way around, ultimately to Palisados and Port Royal. So you'll be able to walk all around. As a matter of fact, there's a meeting that I am missing with the Port Authority because what we're doing now is actually integrating all the other agencies rather than operate in isolation. So we are working with NAA, NWC, but Port Authority met with us about a week or two ago to talk about us addressing their needs, because their responsibility is developing the harbor. So rather than do it in isolation, they're going to identify particular locations that they have interest in so that we could incorporate it in the whole redevelopment of the waterfront promenade. So
when you're talking about the redevelopment of downtown Kingston, I'm also wondering what is happening to some of the surrounding areas, like the Jonestown, the Trenchtown. I know, for instance, Dr. Morgan is doing a lot of stuff in terms of tourism, encouragement for the Trenchtown area. And I was wondering if your development would also include some of those outskirt line areas. Thank you.
well, the plan with the redevelopment of downtown and the introduction of cruise ship arrivals to downtown, the attractions will actually lead to visits from the cruise ship visitors to the communities like Trenchtown, because there's an interest in seeing that. The vision of the National Music Museum is one where you could actually experience the whole evolution of music, right? And one of the things that I would want to see is a 4D theater where you could actually have that experience of being on Orange Street and seeing all of those persons, Dennis Brown, that kind of experience. I actually went to Washington, D.C. and actually visited the museum, and actually went into the 4D theater and had that experience. And I just thought it would be a big attraction. And then that would now encourage persons to want to go to the actual location, to Trenchtown Culture Yard, Bob Marley Museum, Orange Street, because I had a tour of Orange Street, and trust me, it's a lot of rich history. And if we can actually recapture that, because a lot of the older guys who were part of that experience are actually dying off. I represent UDC on the Creative Cities Committee, and one of the strategies is actually to capture that information from them so that it could be part of that experience at a museum. So there are a lot of things happening, but certainly the communities will benefit from it.